center from the zone, Cleveland 20. That's the snap, four-man rush, second down, 9 from behind. Ball knocked away. Highsmith is picked up by Watt from the 15 to the 10 to the 5. Touchdown! Pittsburgh touchdown! T.J. Watt! Mahomes looking, right side, throws, end zone, touchdown! Travis Kelce! Patrick Mahomes with a strike, and he delivers. 14-yard score, the Chiefs after their lead.
Shotgun snap, Brock Purdy airing it out. Deep for Debo in the end zone. Makes the catch on the right side of the end zone for the touchdown. 27 yards to Debo Samuel. And San Francisco may have just put it away.
Tagovailoa on the gun, takes the snap, back to pass, looking, going deep down the right side for Hill. Makes the catch, loses the defense, and he is gone. Down the right sideline. Touchdown Miami. Second big play tonight for Hill.
Long pass. It lands at the 20. No one is there. Zero's on the clock. It's over. The Chiefs have won. The Chiefs have won Super Bowl 57.
The best. With the SiriusXM Platinum VIP plan, you can unlock the ultimate listening experience in up to 2 cars and stream anywhere with 2 app logins. Enjoy our greatest content, opportunities for live VIP experiences, and prioritized customer care. Plus, get access to over 5,000 audio and video concert recordings through nugs.net. Call 844-711-8800 and become a VIP. Offer details apply. Not available in Canada.
Sunday Drive takes you to live action of every NFL game, so you never miss a big play.
He's sacked by Parsons.
Follow the entire league without changing the channel.
Kansas City in position out of the lead. Back there we go now, Chiefs Radio.
Touchdown! Kansas City! Plus, you'll hear fantasy football updates and post-game interviews. The Sunday Drive brings the NFL to you. Sundays, noon to 8 Eastern on NFL Radio Channel 88 and the SiriusXM app.
There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, I think. There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, I think.
Amazing moments happen so much at SiriusXM. We want you to see them. SiriusXM Video lets you watch your favorite SiriusXM shows on the SiriusXM app. Groundbreaking interviews, amazing in-show moments, behind-the-scenes footage, live performances, all come to life in a way you only imagined before. Plus, you can create your own personalized Pandora station based on the artists you love. And hear over 100 extra channels filled with ad-free music for every mood or occasion. Get your first 6 months of our Platinum plan for only $8.33 per month, plus fees and taxes. Just call 844-711-8800 to take advantage of this amazing offer.
If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs, and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your first mortgage payment. And they even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at equityzonemortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you, as heard on the Big C Sports Podcast. License number 018-14868.
Your business, your money, your life.
Marketing, expanding, and branding.
SiriusXM Business Radio.
SiriusXM Business Radio.
Your business, your money, your life.
Entrepreneurs, CEOs, and investors.
SiriusXM Business Radio.
To hear Business Radio, activate your radio now. Call 844-711-8800 or go to SiriusXM.com/go to sign up quickly.
The final Republican presidential debate of the year, moderated by Megyn Kelly.
I'll ask the
the questions you want to hear.
Along with News Nation's Elizabeth Vargas and the Washington Free Beacon's Liliana Johnston.
You better be ready to give America the answers they're looking for.
Wednesday, December 6th, 8 p.m. Eastern on Triumph Channel 111 and News Nation. The Friday News Nation. Go to
Rondo Deportes, bonjour, vidi vidi vici, let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to me, in the universe, and that would include you. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood. Won't you be my neighbor? Shut up! You know, at 3 o'clock in the morning, I've been telling you, faith comes by hearing, and I was elected to be the neighborhood watch party president, and my job is to bring the neighborhood together. But party poopers don't like it when it's 3 o'clock in the morning. But if you're not a party pooper, you can follow 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 29 podcast platforms all over the universe. On a beautiful November the 27th, 2023. Yes, it's almost time. It's almost time for Christmas. But while you wait for Christmas, you can follow Dixie Sports on 29 podcast applications from Google, Alexa, Spotify, Speaker Podcast, TuneIn Podcast, Good Pods Podcast, Amazon Podcast, iHeartRadio Podcast, Castbox Podcast, Deezer Podcast, Podcast Addict, Podchaser. You can also follow Big C Sports on GeoSavan out of London, England, as well as India and Africa. Podtail, YouTube, Hubhopper, Stitcher Podcast, Radio Line, Repod Podcast, Luminary Podcast, Listen Notes, Podcast Wise, Podbay, Global Podcast, Podcast Prodigy, Podcast Republic, and one that used to scare me but not measured is called AllFees.ai. Give that some praise. The robot to take it over. But we don't want the robot to take over all the way. You can also follow Big C Sports Podcast streaming OTT on 4 TV platforms: Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Give that some praise. Give it praise, praise, praise. I love saying what I do as far as reaching out to our veterans. Really do appreciate our veterans. You know, anybody going through issues, there's a Veterans Crisis Hotline, and they really are experienced in helping veterans and their loved ones get help. Everybody needs some help at some point in life. I even called it myself, and it's 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255, or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give it some praise, because we all need somebody to lean on. I knew I do, and they can help you if that makes sense to you. I also want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3, where God said, reparations now, reparations forever. I'm going to be the number one sports podcaster in the universe. Reparations are announced. You mark my words. It's getting closer and closer to the what they call grand rising, if that makes sense, Jim. I also want to say what I love about Big C Sports Podcast is I always produce the show. I direct the topics. I broadcast all the shows. I do all the sound effects based on the platform provided by the agency. We could all use more laughter. I can use more laughter. And then the commercials are done. The stats are provided. I even do the storytelling. I even do the play-by-play, and then I upload every show. It goes out to 29 podcast platforms out of New York City, and I'm in Dimdale Hills, California. And number 10, I never missed a show since creating Big C Sports with the crew back at Salem Media. That's going on 8 years ago. You got to give that some praise. Now they got guys that miss practice. I'm not talking about practice. I'm talking about the game. I'm not talking about practice. I'm talking about the game. If that makes sense to you. Sometimes I think I'm funny, and sometimes I'm not. I'm not that funny. It's all fair and level war. But at the same time, I really do love bringing your Big C Sports podcast. I'm telling you, life is amazing. God is expanding my horizons. Give that some praise. For everybody looking for work, if you're a mortgage broker or an insurance broker and you're looking for work, don't blame Uncle Sam. Call the Big C team. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. Get us a praise. What am I calling the Big C team, Curry? Well, I'm telling you, for insurance and mortgage brokers, we have a business loan alternative company. And think about this. Banks are turning people down with 700 credit scores. You need items to qualify. 4 months bank statements. $5,000 minimum monthly revenue. In 6 months in business, you got to give that some praise. I said give me some praise because we specialize in unsecured working capital. Up to $5 million. No collateral. What? No collateral? Early payoff discounts. What? Early payoff discounts? And we can fund in as little as 1 day. You got to give that some praise. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. I said 800-772-8624 and tell them Big C sent you. If that makes sense to you. If you're looking for work, I want to do what I can to get people back to work. All set and nothing more. But you can't always count on Uncle Sam to give you a job. Give yourself a job if that makes sense to you. Give that some praise. Really do appreciate that. Also want to say I'm one of the leading, in fact, I'm going to say I'm the vanguard, the representative of the National Black Wall Street Project on reparations. Give that some praise. One of the co-chair of Sacramento, California, Northern California, all of the state of California, actually, because I'm telling you, I denounce reparations more than anyone in the universe when it comes to the National Black Wall Street Project. A lot of people are quiet. They're too quiet. Well, I'm not too quiet. I believe in either lead, follow, or get out of the way. And I love the lead, follow, and get out of the way. And if that makes sense to you. But I do know, if you know where you come from, maybe you respect your root a little better, if that makes sense to you. I want to tell you this, and I can do it in great confidence. I'm going to cover some NFL football today. We got a game tonight. Also going to give a recap of what happened in the NFL, Big C's thoughts. Also college basketball, actually college football, Big C's thoughts. And then we got some high school state champions and some state championship tournaments going on all over the country. Really do appreciate that. But I'm going to talk about something that's important because if I don't do it, I don't want to blame somebody for not doing it. When I was growing up, oftentimes I would hear people say, oh, they won't give you nothing. Oh, they ain't going to do nothing for us. Well, God gave you a mouth, and God gave you 3 eyes, and 3 mouths to talk from, and 4 ears to listen. Well, what? That's called a defect, Curry. No, a subconscious mind, it can talk while you have your mouth closed. You don't believe it? Try it sometime. Close your mouth like I rarely do. Close your mouth like I really do. And then start talking to yourself, which I do all the time. You don't have to move your lips to listen to what you're saying. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? The great Chris, that makes sense to you. But I want to make sure that I pay homage to the California Reparations Task Force because nobody else is doing it, but Big C does. So when reparations comes and reparations happens, remember, I told you first. I told you second, I told you last. There's a person that said there's 3 things that matter when it comes to reparations. And the Centers of Holocaust have understood it already. They've gotten the reparations many years ago. And then also some of our Native American brothers, they understand reparations because they got it too. And even though they sent out the reservations, they got it. The reparations happen all over the world. And what I'm going to say is when it comes to reparations, people say, Curry, what are we going to do when they get the reparations? I got 3 things. Get out a pencil and a piece of paper and write this stuff down. Or you can record it on your cellular phone if that makes sense to you. Number 1, when it comes to getting reparations, always get the money. That's number 1. Number 2, this is really important. Always get the money. That's number 2. Number 3 is more important than anything you ever heard in your life. Number 3 is always get the money. And then give that some praise if that makes sense to you. If you forget number 1, repeat step number 2. If you forget number 2, repeat step number 3. If you forget step number 3, repeat step number 1, and always get the money if that makes sense to you. I want to give some praise to the California Reparations Task Force, the chair, Camila Moore. She's brilliant. Always get the money. That's the slogan. And I want to give her praise. I want to give some praise to Dr. Amos C. Brown. He's the vice chair. He's brilliant. Always get the money. If that makes sense to you. I want to give some praise to the number 1 senator in the United States of America, California Senator Stephen Bradford always get the money. I want to give him praise because he's brilliant. He's also responsible for name, image, and likeness, which helps a lot of college kids always get the money, and also the Empty Alert. They have fine young black children when they go missing, if that makes sense to you. I want to give him praise. I want to give praise to council member Monica Montgomery Steppe. She's brilliant. Always get the money. Always get the money. I want to give praise to Assembly member Reginald Jones Sawyer. Always get the money. He's brilliant. That's the slogan. Always get the money. I want to give some praise to Dr. Shell Grills. She's brilliant. Always get the money. Always get that money, if that makes sense to you. I want to give praise to Attorney Lisa Holder. She's brilliant. Always get the money. I want to give praise to Dr. Javon Scott Lewis, professor at California Berkeley. He's brilliant. Always get the money. And I want to give praise to Attorney Donald J. Tamaki. He's part of the California Reparations Task Force. He's brilliant. Always get the money. And he got the money as a Japanese American when they got reparations for their employment gap. So no one can say that, oh, we don't believe in reparations, because reparations are coming right around that corner. Johnny Cash sang a song back in the day. It says, she'll be coming around that mountain, but she comes. She'll be coming around that mountain, but she comes. She'll be coming around that mountain. She'll be coming around that mountain. She'll be coming around that mountain, but she comes. We want the real Johnny Cash. You can't get the real Johnny Cash, but with reparations, you can't get the cash. Give Cash some praise. I think that is a great thing. Give Cash some praise. That's my story. I want to thank this is CNN, proud sponsors of Big C Sports, the Source, Caitlin College, weeknights 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Proud sponsors of Big C Sports. If that makes sense to you, I want to say thank you to PNC Private Bank. Proud sponsors of Big C Sports. Give that some praise. And I need $6 billion. I'm telling you, sometimes when you put out a plan, people say, how you gonna get $6 billion? I'm telling you how I'm gonna get $6 billion. Because in every state in the United States of America and in Canada, I'm going to connect with my real estate show starting in January, the top real estate brokers, insurance, real estate, and mortgage in the United States. We're going to have a one-day show. It's about trading ideas for commerce. When people need money, 800-772-8624. What? I said 800-772-8624. I didn't hear you. What, Curry? You call 800-772-8624. Why do I call 800-772-8624? Because we're going to tell people how to get the money, if that makes sense to you. Give that some praise. Really do appreciate that. I want to also, as I get into the show, I want to thank Double O, part of the payout committee for the National Black Wall Street Project. She sent me an article that was put together by President Biden on his first day in office. It's Google it. Executive Order 13985 is on further advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. And that's called the White House. You got to give that some praise, because President Biden, he did something that he can't seem to get a lot of black folks to support. And that was sent to me by Double O, National Payout Committee for the National Black Wall Street Project. What did he send, Curry? I just told you, Google Executive Order 13985. It's on further advancing racial equity and support for the underserved communities through the federal government. That's the White House. Because they're trying to get reparations passed as we are breathing. And mark my words, because they're going to start stomping for your vote. And you watch. I'm the only sports show that's going to tell you this. The question of, do you support reparations like President Abraham Lincoln? That's going to happen to all the presidential candidates, Republican, Democrats, and Independent. You mark my word, you got to ask them, do you support reparations? And they're going to answer yes or no. If they answer no, they don't get the vote. That has to make sense at some level. No reparations, no vote. Give that some praise. Don't keep letting people suck and drive you and tell you what they're going to do for you. What did Janet Jackson tell you? She said, sweet Caroline, oh, 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 times have never been so good. I'm telling you, sweet Caroline, oh, oh, oh. That's not Janet Jackson. Okay, that's not Janet Jackson, but you know the words. But at the same time, we got to make sure that people answer the question. Do you believe what President Abraham Lincoln talked about when he talked about reparations? That's a simple question. You heard it first on Big C Sports. I want to thank Georgetown University, that's right in the same city as President Biden, the White House, because they pledged over $1 billion in reparations to descendants of chattel slavery, 272 families that helped build Georgetown. They were sold off to pay off the debts for Georgetown. And now Georgetown, they grew a conscience. They grew a conscience. And they realized, you know what, we've damaged so many African Americans descendants of chattel slavery. We got to make a repair. We got to make a repair. The same way you repair anything. You simply acknowledge you're wrong and you atone. You atone. I don't need your speech. They didn't give the descendants of chattel slavery that were sold off, their families sold off to help pay off the debts for Georgetown. They pledged over $1 billion, as well as grants and other ways to help them recover what they lost. White people were making the money. Black Americans are told no. They were lynching black men and lynching black women and selling black babies. And you still have some ignorant people that say, well, that's a long time ago. No, the money was made by white people. And many of those white families, they know they got unclean hands and unclean bank accounts. And all the federal government, through President Abraham Lincoln, the Emancipation Proclamation says is give it back. So I want to commend Georgetown for not putting their head in the sand, if that makes sense to you. I also want to thank Double O, National Payout Committee for the National Black Wall Street Project. She sent me this article. Google it! From the United Nations. This is September 2023. It says that strong leadership and political will are crucial to ensure reparatory justice for people of African descent. You got to give that some praise! United Nations is saying reparations are due, and it's no longer time for shucking and jiving in the United States of America. And as we are breathing, Congress right now, they have over 170 co-sponsors of Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, H.R. 40, which is reparations. Why don't you hear about that on television? I'm telling you, you're going to hear about the Republicans and the Democrats and the Independents. They're going to start stomping for your vote. You got to ask the question, what are their thoughts on reparations? President Biden right now, he's referred it over to Congress. But you got to know the people that put him in office was majoritively black Americans. And people are not dumb. They're paying attention. You got 3 years already, and there's still no reparations. That question's going to be so loud like a drum beat. Do you believe in reparations? It's not going to be swept under the rug this time. And I believe President Biden will sign an executive order. If not, there'll be a new president of the United States. And that's a fact. I want people to do, before I get into some sports, it's like an NBA basketball player. Back in the day when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was doing his thing, he had a sky hook that hardly anyone could touch. His sky hook was so deadly, so lethal, if you got Kareem in the paint, he would score about 90% of the time. He would score about 90% of the time. How would he score about 90% of the time, Curry? Because he was an expert. He was an expert at the sky hook. When Kareem got into the paint, whether he was at UCLA as Lou Alcindor, or Milwaukee, or the LA Lakers, it was almost untouchable. And when President Abraham Lincoln, when he signed into law the Emancipation Proclamation, it was to help the people that helped the United States Union Army win the Civil War. It was black soldiers, because they were about to lose to the good old boys, the Southern Confederates and the Ku Klux Klan. But Lincoln promised the soldiers, if they joined the Union Army and helped win the Civil War, he would offer them their freedoms and 40 acres and a mule. It wasn't the Emancipation Proclamation that ended slavery. It was the 13th Amendment. But the 13th Amendment, it ended slavery in the United States. But the Emancipation Proclamation, it promised 40 acres and a mule. And then, even more important than who won the game, Freedmen's Bank in the United States. You got to Google this stuff. This show is not for dumb people. So if you're offended, then don't be dumb. Google it. Freedmen's Bank, chartered by the United States Congress in March of 1865. And for some of my black brethren that say, oh, Curry, they never gonna pass reparations, turn off the show right now. Turn it off! So you won't know when it passes. United States Congress in March of 1865, it provided a place for former slaves to safely store their money after several successful years in which Friedman deposited more than $57 million in the bank. In 1874, as a result of mismanagement and fraud, the bank failed. How did it fail, Curry? Congress appointed 50 white people. 50. A board of 50 white trustees was named to manage the bank's affairs for black men and women. And they stole the money! You can Google it. I'm not making this stuff up. And Congress never paid back those black families. We hear about the $14 trillion wealth gap between white and black people. Individually, yeah, there's a lot of white people hurting too. But those white Americans that are hurting, how do you think black Americans pull themselves up? If you're a white person and you're struggling in the United States and every person you go to, the employers are white, the teachers are white, the doctors are white, the judges are white, the law enforcement are white, the commissioners are white, the presidents are white except for one. If you having a problem, how do you think black Americans make it? Most of us make it through God and that higher self that we have. But if you having a tough time, what do you think it's like for black Americans when we go out to look for work? The doctors are white, the judges are white, the teachers are white, the school districts are white, the union workers are white, the presidents of the Fortune 500 companies, most of them are white. All of them! And we come out of Jim Crow. And the bank that was supposed to launch black America's wealth, the Freedmen's Bank, it was robbed! Through deceit and theft. And Congress never paid back anybody. They only paid a few people back. So imagine that money with the eighth wonder of the world, compound interest. According to Einstein, how much wealth would have been invested in the black community? It was robbed. So here we come from 1865 to 2023. And no president has had the decency that Abraham Lincoln had to sign the Emancipation Proclamation into law by executive order. No one has. No one. Except for in 2024. Because it's going to have to happen. And if you're like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, they throw you the ball in the paint. When Magic Johnson would throw Kareem the ball in the paint, it was like almost a guaranteed 2 points. This is like the Emancipation Proclamation throwing the ball into the paint for President Joe Biden. You got the ball in the paint. All you got to do is lay it in the basket, and you'll be reelected. You know, when Kareem got the ball in the paint, he didn't shuck and jive and dish it out to somebody else. He didn't try to find Byron Scott or try to kick it back out to James Worthy or try to find Jamal Wilkes or throw it back over to Magic Johnson. When Kareem Abdul-Jabbar got the ball in the paint, Kareem in the paint, Kareem with the sky hook, it's good! And the Lakers win the game! Kareem understood. When the ball is in your hands and you got the sky hook that nobody can stop, you put the ball in the bucket. President Joe Biden, you already issued Executive Order 13985. But you did that your first day in office. As people are stomping to become the president of the United States in 2024 for the election, the president that has the ball in the paint, all he has to do is sign the executive order. You become the next president of the United States. You got to give that some praise. You got to give it praise. You can't say you didn't hear it first. The ball's in your hand. What are you going to do with it? That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. You got to give that some praise. It's so simple. Kareem was a leading scorer and still is the leading scorer in the history of the NBA. Oh, Curry, you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. That's LeBron James. Well, let me finish, bro. Nobody scored more 2-point baskets in the history of the NBA than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You can Google it. Now, LeBron James may have had more points scored overall, but he shot a lot of threes. Kareem only had one 3-point basket in all of his career. So when it comes to who made the most 2-point baskets, that's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You know how he made most of his points, President Joe Biden? He got the ball into the paint. He got the ball into the paint, just like President Abraham Lincoln has told the next president of the United States that would be elected in 2024, whether newly elected or re-elected. Get the ball in the paint and make the basket. That's called the Emancipation Proclamation. The black voting bloc, as a monolithic group, is the most powerful voting bloc in the United States. It determines who's going to be elected, because other parties are mostly split. Why are we so beholden to somebody who won't sign reparations? That gig is up. And so the president that signs it, and you can't say, well, if you re-elect me, then I'll sign it, because you won't get re-elected. The Emancipation Proclamation needs to be signed for reparations before the vote, before Election Day. You do that, you'll have a runaway victory. You don't do that, you'll be saying, well, it'll be one of those Al Gore concession speeches. And you don't need an Al Gore concession speech. And that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. You can get that some praise. I love Big C Sports Podcast. You can shuck and jive all you want, but you can't shuck and jive on you got the ball in the paint. What would Kareem do? What would Kareem Abdul-Jabbar do when he had the ball in his hands and he's in the paint? He's going to score the basket, and the Lakers would win. Isn't that amazing? The ball's in your hand, President Joe Biden. I hope you do the skyhook and put the ball in the basket, if that makes sense to you. All strand level. I want to talk about some things that happen in the world of football, because football is amazing. I know we have the NBA and tournament schedules, and it's all fan level war. That's fine. But NFL football is Big C's NFL recaps over what happened week 12. There's a lot of great games out there, and we have some NFL football tonight with Chicago and the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are favored by 3. The over-under is 43.5. And I'm going to go with the Vikings winning that game, because they've just been a better team than Chicago all year long. Will they cover the 3 points? Probably so, if that makes sense to you. But I want to get into what happened over the weekend. There's a lot of great games let's give Thanksgiving some praise. I had a great Thanksgiving day, spending the time with loved ones and some great friends. Really do appreciate that. The Green Bay Packers 29, Detroit Lions 22. Jordan Love out of Liberty High School in Bakersfield and Utah State, in the middle of one of the best stretches of his career. And that good boy was 22 of 32, 268 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also had 39 yards on 3 carries. A good run-pass option for the Green Bay Packers. And then on the other side of the field, it was 2 first-half fumbles from Jared Goff, who played at McRae Catholic High School in Kentville, California, and went to Cal Berkeley. They were critical in the Lions' offensive failures. Goff finished the game 29 of 44, 332 yards, but the damage was already done. When you fumble the ball away, usually you don't have a chance to win. Joe Biden, don't fumble the ball away. Reparations now, reparations forever. Dallas Cowboys. How about those Cowboys? Dallas Cowboys 45. The Washington Commanders 10. Cost Jack Del Rio his opportunity to keep coaching defensively. The worst situation you can find yourself in against a defensive front as good as the Cowboys. How about those Cowboys? Is chasing in the fourth quarter. And that's what the Commanders were faced with. When I think about Micah Parsons, he finished the game with 1.5 sacks, could have had 2. And then also Jonathan Hankins added a pair of his own. Dallas is a very good team, unless they face the 49ers from Dimdare Hills, California, if that makes sense to you. Deron Bland, out of Modesto, California, Central Catholic High School, he set an NFL record with his 5th interception return for a touchdown of the season. He picked off Howell and then navigated his way through the end zone. And that made history in the NFL. Out of Central Catholic High School in Modesto, California. And then he went to Sacramento State and Fresno State. I want to give him some praise if that makes sense to him. And then how about Dimdale Hills? The San Francisco 49ers, 31. The Seattle Seahawks, 13. You know, they say that the 49ers, they were always looking for more gold in Dimdale Hills. Well, what's a healthy thing for a miner to eat? They say, would it be duck? Well, duck is good, but it's not number one. How about some lamb? Well, lamb is good, but it's not number one. How about some chicken nuggets? Well, chicken nuggets are good, but it's not number one. Well, what does a miner like to eat? How about some Seattle Seahawks? Yeah, that 12th man was loud, but the 49ers went in there and they ate 31 fish, and they only let Seattle eat 13. When you go to someone's house, you're not supposed to eat all the food like I did at Thanksgiving. They said not only did this man come here and eat all the food, then he asked to take some home. Well, because I was hungry in them their hills, but the Seattle Seahawks, they had no answer for the good old boys from the San Francisco Bay Area. All's fair in love and war. I'm telling you, Seahawks rookie Jackson Smith and Jumbo was held without a catch in the first half, but he ended up leading the team in receiving yards 41 from 2 catches. But when you have Deebo Samuel doing his thing, and you have Brandon Ayuk doing his thing, you have Christian McCaffrey doing his thing, and then when you think about it, Purdy had a pretty decent game, and that 49er defense, they are so good and fast. So I really do appreciate the boys from Dimmer Hills as they now have a mammoth matchup coming up this weekend in Philadelphia to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. All's fair and love, where I got to see that game. Miami Dolphins 34, the New York Jets just 13. The Miami Speed, Miami Vice had, these two good old boys. They were always running around in fast cars, but the speed of the Miami Dolphins, it was too much for the Jets to take on, and both of the top playmakers having big days. The great Tyreek Hill had 12 catches at 102 yards on 9 receptions, thrown it 12 times, 102 yards on 9 catches, including a touchdown. And Jalen Waddle, he picked up 114 yards and 8 catches. They're a speed team. You got to have some speed to catch up with the Miami Dolphins. And then the quarterback did not create any sparks for the Jets, but Tim Boyle, he was 27 of 38, 179 yards and a touchdown and 2 interceptions. You can't throw interceptions if you're going to win. You can't throw interceptions. President Biden not passing the Emancipation Proclamation and passing reparations for descendants of child slavery, that would be an interception. Don't throw an interception if you want to be reelected to the White House. It's not my only saying. There's a lot of people are saying that. And in your heart, you know it too. You said to many black constituents, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. If you don't pass reparations, you're not going to get reelected. And so whoever believes that President Abraham Lincoln was justified, they'll be the ones that sign reparations. President Biden, you're the only one that can sign it. Because if the election happens and you have an Al Gore moment, don't have an Al Gore moment. You like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You in the paint right now. And you got the ball in your hand. United Nations has already endorsed reparations for descendants of child slavery in the United States of America. Just like our Jewish brethren get for the Holocaust. Heirs of the Holocaust, they get reparations as we are breathing. Are you breathing? It's so easy. The ball's in your hand. I used to love watching Kareem in the paint. I was a big-time Laker fan growing up. They were always winning. The Showtime, the Fast Break, Magic Johnson, Jamal Wilkes, James Worthy. But they got the ball to the paint to Kareem. When Kareem had the ball in the paint, he was going to score about 90% of the time. You got the ball in your hands, President Biden. Just watch what Kareem did when he had the ball in his hand. He didn't fumble the ball out of bounds. He put it in the bucket. Take that ink pen and do the same thing you did when you signed the crime bill. You signed it. You didn't fumble. You didn't drop the pen. You signed it. And it destroyed a lot of black families for doing the same thing that white people have been doing since we got to this country. And you have a chance to atone now. It's easier than what Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had to do when he had the ball in his hand. He had someone trying to block him, and he still led the NBA in scoring. And still has he's the leading scorer in the history of the NBA in 2-point baskets. And he has someone contesting every shot. No one's contesting your shot, President Joe Biden. God's on your side, and so is the United Nations, and so is Georgetown University. And you know it's true. It's the easiest re-election in the history of the universe. Give that some praise. Atlanta Falcons 24, New Orleans Saints 15. When you think about Jesse Bates, the third, hauling an outstanding interception and came back later in the game to punch the football loose to force a fumble. Tyrann Mathieu picked off a Desmond Ridder twice, and he's always trying to get his hands on the ball. And those good old boys, the Falcons 24, who that said they're going to beat them Saints? Everybody lately, 15. All's fair and never war. I got a feeling the Steelers are going to the Super... They're not going to the Super Bowl, but who would have thought the Steelers would be challenging the Ravens this year for first place in their division? Pittsburgh Steelers 16, Cincinnati Bengals 10. The Steelers cornerback Joey Porter Jr. had another solid outing and recorded a pass breakup, while edge rusher Nick Herbig, he notched a sack. The Steelers under Mike Tomlin, he's never had a losing season. Never. And this year won't be one either. The Steelers are good. They're not going to the Super Bowl, but they're a very good team, if that makes sense to you. Jacksonville Jaguars 24 with a field goal missed by Houston Texans 21. Both quarterbacks were impressive, with Trevor Lawrence eventually coming out on top. Trevor Lawrence played at Clemson, and rookie C.J. Stroud played at Ohio State. And both passes, I'm telling you, they averaged more than 8 yards per attempt. The average target was 9 yards. Lawrence finished 73% adjusted completion rate. And I'm telling you, that game came down to Houston missing a field goal from going into overtime. It was a good win by Jacksonville, if that makes sense to you. Indianapolis Colts 27, Tampa Bay Buccaneers 20. Buccaneers cornerback Carlton Davis was the spotlight player on the defense in this game, finishing the game with 9 total tackles and interception, if that makes sense to you. But it wasn't enough. Indianapolis came rolling, and they got a 27-20 win. I hope that Baker Mayfield's going to be okay. I haven't found out what happened to him, if that makes sense to you. All fair and everywhere. The New York Football Giants 10, New England Patriots 7. Can you say it was a fumble when they robbed the Raiders back in the snow at the old Foxborough Stadium? Well, both offenses took their time to show up, but coming out of the 2-minute warning in the first half, Isaiah Hodgins was able to will his way into the end zone and get the Giants on the scoreboard first. Rookie quarterback Tommy DeVito completed 17 of 25 passes, 192 yards, and a touchdown. Meanwhile, Saquon Barkley was a non-factor in the game. He carried the rock 12 times, and he fell down for 46 yards. He had one catch for 6 yards. Have they thrown in the towel? What they said in the Rocky movie, throw in the towel! Throw in the towel! Throw in the towel! In the Rocky movie, it looks like the New England Patriots have thrown in the towel. And the Giants tried to throw it in too. They're trying to get Caleb Williams out of USC, if that makes sense. Tennessee Titans 17, Carolina Panthers 10. Arden Key forced a fumble on a sack of Bryce Young. And Danico Autry notched 2 sacks, and Jeffrey Simmons tallied 1. Simmons also made another pair of tackles for loss and recovered the fumble. Bryce Young's going to be a good quarterback, but it's hard to throw the ball when he's sitting on his backside. Out of Santa Ana Modern Day High School in Alabama, he's used to winning championships and playing for championships, but he can't throw the ball well when he's sitting on his backside. It's just growing pains, if that makes sense to you. And we all have growing pains in life at some point or another. How about those Rams? The Rams 37, the Arizona Cardinals 14, and the third-round rookie defensive tackle Kobe Turner matched his season total of 2 sacks with a couple of this game, bringing him up to 4 for the year. Turner also notched 4 defensive stops and pending final reviews to lead the team in that regard. Kyler Murray got a score for the Arizona Cardinals, but I said the Cardinals should have kept Dobbs now at Minnesota because he's a better quarterback. Murray's flashy, but it's because of his contract they're going to keep him around. But Matthew Stafford came into the desert and put up some big numbers for the Los Angeles Rams as they climbed the mountain in the desert, 37-14 over the Arizona Cardinals. All fair and level war. Who that say they're going to beat those Broncos? Got the Denver Broncos, 29, the Cleveland Browns, 12. You have quarterback Russell Houdini Wilson. Russell Wilson's stats were not spectacular, but he did make big plays. He made big-time plays to big-time players at crucial times against one of the best defenses in the NFL. Wilson averages 6.1 yards per attempt. He only completed 13 of 22 attempts, but he suffered through 3 drops. They had some droppy fingers up in Denver Hills, Colorado, including a drop touchdown to Cortland Sutton. Wilson also carried the rock 11 times, 32 yards, and a touchdown, moving the chains 3 times on the ground. Russell Houdini Wilson, Denver's won 5 in a row now. You got to be careful for that team in Denver Hills, Colorado. It's tough to win when you go up there in the wintertime And I'm telling you, they're looking at maybe sneaking into the playoffs, if that makes sense to you. How about those Chiefs? 31, Las Vegas Raiders 17. The Chiefs defensive tackle Chris Jones did not have a stat-stuffing day, but he did make one of the biggest defensive plays of the game. In the second half, he finished the game with 2 tackles and 1 stop of the run defense and 2 quarterback pressures pending final reviews. That good boy may be the best defensive tackle in the NFL, but he's not known for it as much as a lot of other guys that lift more weights. But when Chris Jones comes to play, he's a difference maker on defense. And how about the Philadelphia Eagles 37, the Buffalo Bills 34 in Dimdare Hills, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The great Dalton Kincaid caught 5 or 6 targets thrown his way for 38 yards. 38 yards! This marks the 6th straight game that Kincaid has had at least 5 receptions in a game as he's become more involved in the Bills' offense with Dawson Knox out of the lineup. Now, Jalen Carton did not deliver a sack in this game, but did come up with 3 pressures. And when I think about Jalen touchdown Hurts, how he drove the Eagles down in field goal range with less than 2 minutes to play, great 2-minute drill in the driving rain. His run-pass option is amazing, and that good boy rushed the ball in for a touchdown that won the game in overtime. And the good boys from Philadelphia, they knocked off the Buffalo Bills. I'm telling you, in Dimdare Hills, Pennsylvania, 37-34, and that's my story. I think he's up for MVP. People may not see that, but Jalen Hurts, without Jalen Hurts, the Eagles would have lost 3 or 4 games already. Baltimore Ravens came out to Dimdare Hills, California, and they took on the Los Angeles, what do you call them? The Thunderbolts, the Chargers. Keaton Mitchell continued his run of explosive performances out of the Ravens' backfield, taking 9 carries, 64 yards, and 4 first down. He forced 3 missed tackles and averaged 5.6 yards after contact per rush. Superman Lamar Jackson, they did not have the best game, but their defense, they only gave up 10 points in Dimdale Hills, California. You give up 10 points in Dimdale Hills, California against a team that throws the ball as much as the Chargers. You gotta give that some praise, because that to me is what championship teams do. They win with their defense, and the Ravens have a great defense. They really fly to the ball, and I just love watching the way they play. They are an amazing team on defense to come across the country and take on the Chargers and get that win at SoFi Stadium. All's fair and no more. I want to look at some of the things going on in college football over the weekend. I'm telling you, to me, I love this time of year. Who we going to keep out and who we going to put in when you look at college football, and how we going to figure out who's going to be representing their conferences in college football playoffs. I know everybody has their own thoughts about who the best teams are. To me, it's about how you play in your conference championship games that can get you in to the national championship picture. And I feel bad for some teams because only 4 teams can get in. And in my opinion, I think when you look at the Pac-12, the Pac-12 has 2 great opportunities in the Pac-12 championship game coming up on Friday. You're going to have the Washington Huskies, and they're going to be taking on the Oregon Ducks. Oregon's favorite, I saw some out of Las Vegas said they're favored by as many as 9 points. I don't really see that. I think they're going to beat Washington, but no one's beaten Washington. Washington right now is 12-0 on the season, and the Huskies, they have not been 12-0 since they won the national championship back in 1991 under the late, great Donnie James. And so when you look at that team, you got to give the Washington Huskies a lot of accomplishment that they've accomplished over the past season, because they've done it and won in some close games, and they didn't blow out Washington State, but they did get a chance to win that game. They won the Apple Cup. It was close, 24-21 over rival Washington State, and now they go on to the Pac-12 championship. And Washington will play Oregon for the second time this season, this time for the Pac-12 championship. The last time there will be Pac-12 championship, because both of those teams are going to the Big Ten, if that makes sense to you. I want to bring up Michigan. Michigan proved the doubters wrong again. No Jim Harbaugh, and apparently no signs the Wolverines control the game from the get-go. An instant classic while never trailing. Michigan beat rival Ohio State. The Maize and Blue are headed back to the Big Ten championship game, and they have a win to beat. They got to beat Iowa. They will probably beat Iowa decisively and get in to the college football playoffs again. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. And then how about those Bulldogs from Georgia? They finally had a game where it was a little bit closer than anticipated. It's been a while since Georgia's played a close game. No matter what, Georgia's still undefeated and going to the SEC Championship where the Bulldogs will take on Alabama. If Georgia's truly what it's been the last 2 years, we should see another great game. I think Alabama has a chance to knock off Georgia as much as anybody has over the years. But we will see if Alabama knocks off Georgia. Alabama's going to get into the college football playoffs, and they'll put Georgia in as a number 4 seed. That's my opinion. If Georgia knocks off Alabama, Georgia's going to go into the National Football Playoffs as the number 1 seed, and they'll bounce Alabama from the playoffs if that makes sense to you. And I think right now Alabama has a chance to beat Georgia. Now I want to look at why I think Alabama can beat Georgia. They struggled against Auburn in the Iron Bowl. A lot of teams struggle when they go and play their rival games in Auburn and Alabama. They always have that. But the sport is so great because the Iron Bowl, Alabama looked like they were going to lose. And then Jalen Monroe, he happened. Did you see them throw that? Do you see yourself watching Alabama play close with Georgia and maybe beat them? They're the last team to beat Georgia. Back to behind the 30-yard line on 4th and goal. Monroe delivered the throw of his life to Isaiah Bond, and then the go-ahead score stunned Auburn, and Bama kept it within striking distance in the college football playoffs. I think Alabama is a team you don't want to face. The one loss was a bad loss to Texas at home, but they've gotten much better since then. If Alabama wins, they're going bowling. Wait, Curry, what are you? You must be out of your mind, Curry. Well, the good old boys down in Texas. Now, the Texas Longhorns, they battered Texas Tech 57-7, and even Arch Manning made his collegiate debut. It was that kind of night for Texas, which quietly put together one heck of a season considering the talk about the teams ahead of them. Texas, the only blemish was a last-minute loss to Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry. Now, Quentin Ewers was up and down, but Jaden Bluefield, he filled in nicely with running back C.J. Baxter, went down with an injury. This Texas team, they may not get the national attention, but you have a one-loss team. And now Texas is going to join the SEC. The reason that Nebraska left the Big 12 is because they thought they were robbed against Texas in a Big 12 championship game, and they exited the Big 12 to go join the Big 10. Watch the dichotomy here. If Alabama beats Georgia, they're going bowling. And if Texas wins the Big 12 championship, and they most likely will, if Texas is knocked out of the football playoffs by a team they beat 34-14 at Tuscaloosa, will Texas rescind their order to join the SEC? No, because they're going to make more money. But what about a twist of fate? If Texas beat Alabama at Alabama, and then the good old boys get knocked out of the college football playoffs by a team they beat by 3 touchdowns, you don't think there'll be some good old boys drinking in Texas? I'm not advocating drinking, but they got to be really upset. Ohio State's out. They're not going to get in. They'll go to a good bowl. But a shame that you have some great teams with one loss. Let's just say if Washington loses to Oregon, and I think they're going to lose that game, you have Washington Huskies with one loss. They'll most likely go to the Rose Bowl. You'll have Ohio State with one loss. They'll most likely play in the Rose Bowl against the Washington Huskies. You will have Texas with one loss, and maybe they can get in, but probably not. If you get Alabama beating Georgia, you're going to have Georgia's going to be number 4. They'll probably have Michigan at number 2. They'll put the Pac-12 champ at number 3, and they'll put in Alabama, or they'll put in Georgia, drop them back to number 4. And they wouldn't go past Georgia to bring in Texas. They won't circumvent them to bring in a one-loss. Well, even though Florida State's undefeated, they don't have the resume, in my opinion, to get in. And then you'll have a Texas with one loss. You'll have a Washington with one loss. And then you look at maybe Florida State, even if they're undefeated. It's not about who has the best record. It's about who has the best team. And Florida State barely got past Florida. It took late-game heroics to do that. So I can't wait to see what happens in college football because it's a great sport. And this is why, for the good old boys that say, we don't need 12 teams in the playoffs. Oh, yes, we do. Because the top 12 teams, you got teams with one loss that are not getting consideration because they're not in the top 4. Even Alabama, they're a better team the number 8 in the country. But if they get knocked off by Georgia, will they get left out? Of course they'll get left out. If they beat Georgia, and if Texas wins the Big 12, will Texas jump Alabama? If it's based on head-to-head rankings and head-to-head schedule, if anyone saw the game, you can't say that Alabama beat Texas. But right now, is Alabama a better team than Texas? Maybe, maybe not, perception-wise. But that's the thing about college football, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. I just love college football. It's amazing to me. And I really do appreciate how these good boys play with all their heart, mind, body, and soul. And I just want to give them some praise because they deserve it. It's a great game, and they're trying to figure out who goes on to the next level. I want to just touch really quickly on the 2023 FCS college football playoffs. And it's kicked off the past weekend. Only 4 conferences remain in contention for the FCS National Championship. And history was made this weekend when Mercer won the first FCS playoff game in school history, and North Dakota State tied Georgia Southern for the most all-time FCS playoff wins. Some of the teams to keep in mind: North Dakota State, they beat Drake 66-3. They look pretty strong. You also got to keep in mind Sacramento State, the Hornets, 42-35 over North Dakota. I have Sacramento State winning the national championship this year. They have a quarterback by the name of Caden Bennett, who's spectacular, and you'll see him playing on Sunday someday. That's my opinion. I'm sticking with it. Also, Youngstown State, 40, Duquesne 7. They have another good team in Ohio. Southern Illinois, 35, Nicholas State, nothing, if that makes sense to you. And now you have Richmond, 49, North Carolina Central, 27. Also in the FCS playoffs, Delaware, 36, Lafayette, 34. You got to also look around in the FCS playoffs. Chattanooga, 24, Austin Peay, 21. There's a lot of good teams in FCS. Mercer, 17, Gardner-Webb, 7. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. You got to give all those teams some praise. May the best team win. Holy Holy and the Donut Batman. I don't know where that came from, but I used to watch a lot of Batman and Robin. Got tonight the Chicago Bears taking on the Minnesota Vikings, and the Vikings favored by 3. I think they'll win by 3 because that's what winners do. And then if you look at the NBA as we close out Big Street Sports on a beautiful November the 27th, 2023, NBA playoffs, this play-in games where you have these teams competing for a chance to go to Vegas and win out. A big game in Northern California coming up, Sacramento Kings and the Golden State Warriors. With De'Aaron Fox at the helm, they're a really tough team to beat. Everybody has their own thoughts on NBA basketball. It's a great timeout. Sometimes the beer prices are too good. Booker and Banchero named NBA Players of the Week. All fair and love and war. I'm going to get into some more NBA talk probably by tomorrow or the day after, if that makes sense to you. LaMelo carried off, ruled out with an ankle strain. I'm telling you, NBA basketball is great, but right now it has to take a back seat to NFL football and college football. All fair and love and war. Everybody has their own opinion about who the best players are. The Kia MVP, Lattimore, LeBron James, and Durant that joined the top 10. I'll get into more of that talk of LeBron James re-emerging as the MVP. All fair and love and war. The Warriors, Golden State, lost 8 of its last 10 games. They got to get that figured out, but they probably won't get that figured out against the Kings. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. As I like to say, reparations now, reparations forever. That's my story, I'm sticking with it. I can't wait for the presidential debate, because when they ask the question, do you believe in reparations? Joe Biden has a layup in his hand. The ball in his hand. He's not as tall as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but Kareem did it with the skyhook. Joe Biden can do it with the pen, if that makes sense to you. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, if you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink, because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You can call Uber. You can call Lyft. You can walk it off. You can sleep it off, but don't get behind the wheel of a car after you've been drinking, because the life you save may be your own. I haven't seen the tragic numbers of DUIs over the weekend of holiday Thanksgiving, but it's so avoidable. If you're going to drink, please don't drive. That's my story. Sticking with it. Well, you know what time it is. I always tell you, back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Jubal Deanie Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly and you sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali would say, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat, because every time I listen to Big C Sports, it makes me want to say reparations now, reparations forever. And then I float like a butterfly and I sting like a bee. And that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. My beautiful mother always says, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. No man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, pick up the phone and call 911, because people change when the police show up. And no man, woman, or child should ever have somebody going upside their head. You should not tolerate it. Call 911 if that makes sense to you. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. You know, as I always tell you on every Big C Sports Show, I thank you, I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a super fantastic day. And now I'm going to do what the next president of the United States will do. He's going to champion President Abraham Lincoln, America's 16th president. What did he say, Curry? He said reparations now, reparations forever. Hold on, I didn't hear you. You said it louder. What did President Abraham Lincoln say? It's the same thing that the next president of the United States needs to say. He said reparations now, reparations forever. Curry, after you said one more time, I didn't quite hear you. What did President Abraham Lincoln say for the next president of the United States to do? He said sign reparations now, sign reparations forever. Reelected. I thank you, I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a super fantastic day.